So it's just funny, like these full circle moments. When people like we talk about these full circle moments, it's like little circles amongst little circles amongst little circles that just keep circling each other, you know?
Yeah, like every once in a while you break out of your own orbit that you got caught in for like a long period. And you're like, oh, I actually am like, I am in a little bit different of an orbit.
Yeah, but it's just like, like that was one of the first spots to do Juice Spot.
Yeah, that's
And,
crazy.
and now to turn around and be like, let's do like a mini Kippies inside Parcel. Like if
Hmm.
you think about it, like nothing that I'm doing in Minneapolis would have been possible if it wasn't for us taking the leap of faith to um, do startups
Yeah.
in in California in general. Like
Honestly,
all the
like as an entrepreneur, like you could literally, in a weird way, just move to any city, ideally a New York, an LA, maybe a London, right out of school, like your first 2 years, leave, put it on Instagram for people know that you're out there like experiencing things, come back, and whatever you start would at least have, and as long as you had the right amount of experiences out there, people would have some level of more credibility of what you're
yeah,
doing.
yeah. And so for me, that'd be maybe going to Italy and learn how to make the best pasta ever for like a year, you
Right.
know, come back being like, yep, we got drinks on tap and it's just like whatever pasta we decide to make today. So are you in?
Hmm.
Right. And some people love that. Like no menu, come on.
I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's five and a
All
horse, I'm
right.
ready
Well,
for
let's jump into
war.
this thing. So we got
37.
Kamal, Minneapolis, Kamal Mohamed in the place. We've been best friends for a long time, met it on
Yeah.
stage at a bar, and then developed a tech company for a while called JuiceBot, which ended up uh crashing and burning, I think 3 or 4 times. We kept it alive several different periods of time, and then finally had its final death. I don't even know how many years ago it was now.
Uh,
5?
it was fall of 2019. Yeah.
Okay. 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
Uh, but every time we're chatting, as we're able to, now that babies are in the way, family and life kids sound persisting. Unfortunately, as we always have talked about, like the time and distance of when we're able to communicate continues to prolong. And
Yeah.
there's a huge element of like this 37 for 37 is to force people that are my best friends to like reconnect, because I
Yeah.
love to use experiences like a birthday to be able to like just regrow community. Um, you're one of the only people that I've really stayed in contact with, like at least in a real way, from far away.
Yeah.
But
And there's something about our universes are even if they're on different planes, they're running parallel to each other. And
yeah,
like we talk all the time where, we kind of have that sort of springboard of, coming out of the ashes of 2019 and using that springboard. And so I'll have people, I run into be like, oh, how is LJ doing? Or they'll see some of the work that you've been doing with, different varying levels of celebrities out in, and you kind of see a little bit of like that surprise in their eyes. And I'm like, bro, he's been doing this, in sense of like doing the micro builds along the way. And
hmm,
so to me now, like if you called me tomorrow and said you were in the room with the president or you were you were doing a podcast with LeBron James himself, I would be like, that's amazing. When can I send you product? Like it doesn't,
yeah,
it, it doesn't, it amazes me and yet it doesn't because I working with you for so long, I know what to expect. I know that one way or another, it's going to happen.
yeah. Weird stuff shows up.
Yeah,
Um, I think if I have that one talent, it's just like staying and sticking in a spot. And that's the best part about, I think, what Purple Banter is for me is it's probably my truest vein of what I see like my prolonged life looking like. And so it feels like a spot that I can actually like stay and stick in, and that know I can know the longevity of it is probably
yeah,
like the truest version of myself. And so within that optimism of it, I'm like, There's no situation. I could literally get a marketing job tomorrow and I'd still be doing this like in the afternoon. Now, what I, a lot of people, again, like they are always asking me like, what's Kamal doing? Okay, that sounds good. They're always, asking me what Kamal's up to. And, I think outside of you being truly my best friend, there has been what you've always done is you have inspired me to be this person. You are one of the most creative. You are you know how to lead really well. You really understand how to get people understanding of your vision, seeing people to actually attach themselves to it and make it their vision as well. And then what your truest best talent is starting, actually like opening the door, pressing go and making it happen. And that is this weird innate trait that I don't know what's it always fueled by. It's certainly not fueled by ego. It's fueled by like, I would love to know, like, what do you think that particular thing is that you have to be well aware that a lot of people talk about starting a juice bot company. There's 10 other companies before that you've begun. And you're comfortable also with like beginning and then knowing that it takes a second. Like you don't need it to always pop, even when you announce that this thing isn't moving forward as quickly as a community wants it to sometimes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's been, if you look at like the foundation of our friendship and relationship and brotherhood, it's that for us starting something has been intrinsically as exciting as like when you're a 19-year-old being invited to a college party. Like, why do you want to go to a party? It's just because it's fun. You just want to go. You want to see what magic will come out of it. And so I think for people that like to start stuff and want to surround themselves with that type of energy, it's intrinsically fun, right? Like, of course, like we want it to work. Of course, we want it to succeed. But without, you don't have all those assurances. So why start? And I think a big part of that is like, it's just, we find it fun. It's like the same way, when you hear Kobe say like, I go to the gym because I'd rather be shooting a basketball than like doing something else. Now, there's a lot of guys who've been, get to the league because they're naturally gifted. They're going to put in a certain amount of work and they will ride the bench, or they'll be, they'll get to play for many different reasons. But to say like, okay, on your off day, you go and play, or for us, it's like, yeah, I'd rather be starting something, and I find that intrinsically exciting. I don't know where that comes from, but if that is the gift, then I think we've taken it with stride.
I've always thought that was funny, because I think within the context of JuiceBot, you did a pretty good job of like, and unfortunately, I think it was a negative thing, but you paused that element of, well, let's try something new. You were like, I'm going to actually just try to put all of my energy in this. And we were coming up with new things all the time within the context of JuiceBot. But then once something that we sacrificed 10 years for dies, you immediately go, I am never going to sacrifice, like almost failing to launch other things that you desire in order to have this thing also work first. Because it was a bunch of, once this takes off, it'll open the door to all these things that then I would have been doing media after. I always thought like I thought I was going to start Purple Banter with like $30 million. Yeah. And I got to start it with $3,000. And then that immediately went away once I bought one camera. So basically started with zero. And then, but you've now started, you have just had such an incredible journey from going home, working within your family business, growing that into like a franchise. I mean, Ali Mama, to seeing like what that food truck was doing. And then you like, you know, while I'm playing around and you're starting to even like be willing to like sit down and do purple politics with me,
Right.
you're sitting and like you're, you know, boiling and figuring out how to like make fried chicken and going
Right.
over to like different fried chicken shops and making it at the house and have everybody try it as you do. Like you're coming up with new foods all the time and everyone in the room is going to try it. To
Yeah.
then going home and be like, telling RF, like, bro, I think we have to like strip all the food trucks and they all need to turn into Nashville Coupe. And
Right.
that sounds easy to say now,
Right.
but to
At the
make that pivot then was chaotic.
Yeah. And then you're telling, and it's also weird after trusting your gut on something like Juice Bot and having it fail, and then telling yourself, trust the gut again, and trying to tell your entire family, we
Yeah.
gotta, so it's one of those things where it's like, you're like, I don't know if this shot is gonna work, but I think what really helped a little bit of that conviction was the fact that COVID kind of created this it was like a wave that came in. And so it was like, well, we know that this other concept is just not going to work because of COVID. So it makes it easier to take a little bit of that shot too. So a part of it is luck. A part of it is, being in the right place at the right time. But you still have to take the shot. You still have to be like, I think this is going to work.
Well,
Because
you
this is,
also went from someone from afar in Minnesota seeing you running a tech company that everybody expected for you to like come out on the other side and be at least a small level multimillionaire.
yeah, yeah,
At least Kamal's gonna have like $5 million.
yeah,
You went home and sat in a food truck all summer with lines that ended up being like, I mean, online it looked like it was like 300 people in line.
yeah, yeah,
And but there's this weird element of you having enough ego to know seeing the through line of the outcome, but that is wildly humble
yeah,
while everyone's ordering a chicken sandwich of a truck that's not even branded yet, going,
right.
Kamal, what's good?
Was
Like
good.
you're
So,
working at your mom's food truck?
yeah,
Like,
I
but
mean, it's
you
like,
you never see it that way. Like you
yeah,
saw the through line in the vision to be like, dude, I'm creating a monster, which you did within that,
yeah,
with your whole
and
family within that concept.
yeah, and I think there's a part of that where I think some things, when you're doing something genuinely, there is this like unshakable confidence that is like hard to explain. Because it's like at that point you're like, but I know I'm turning, even if it's a little bit of profit, right? It's like I know that I'm doing something that is working. And when you come from fighting to just make something work and you have something that does work, you're like, I'll bring up the register and be like, "What's up, bro? We graduated at the same time. You work for a Fortune 500 company and probably doing pretty well. And like, I'm handing you food out of a truck as if like, I'm a 17-year-old working through at In-N-Out, right?
Right.
But there was this element where when you when there was no, I never had any shame. I mean, if anything, I was like beaming with pride and confidence to be
Which you
like,
should have been. But I can see like in sometimes in these, especially like Midwestern spaces, that would be an ego check for a lot of people.
yeah,
Like you have to see that someone could think that in that
yeah,
type of space.
yeah. And when all the stuff kind of just like fell apart, and we finally like the sledgehammer came down, on that call with the Turks, and you kind of wake up the next day and like cars are going by, the sun came up, like you kind of realize it's it's a death of a thing. It's not death of you, right? And
Yeah.
so I think, I mean, right away, like you and I were, um, you were putting together Purple Banter, and I was like your first like co-host. It was
Yeah,
fun.
we're
I
doing
had it.
Purple Politics, which I still am like a show that I'm still trying to figure out how to do right. And
Yeah,
we were in Playland though. We were back in the sandbox.
yeah. I mean, it was like right away, and then when COVID happened, you were leading the charge, and going back to volunteering. And then for us to just like, you know, you were going out every day. I was going out almost every day with you and Elof, and figuring out, you know, us doing sandwiches and just being like, we don't know where we're going, but we want to have fun and we want to give back. And then there's this element where like, yes, I think a lot of times like failure is tied to ego, right? And so when that ego starts to dissipate, like failure also dissipates with it, where you're just like, yeah, I tried it, it doesn't make me, and it doesn't like, if it does well, I'm not going to be this like tyrant, and then vice versa. And so I think
Yeah.
having that ability to just like get back in the sandbox with your best friend, have fun, ideate, um, I mean, and the crazy thing is like at that point you could have been like, dude, come on, like you've kind of destroyed the last 10 years of my life. Like I trusted you with this idea and then it was all for nothing. You could have done that. You could have
I mean,
like,
we all knew what we were getting ourselves into, though.
yeah, yeah,
Especially by that time, if you didn't realize it. Because I also think that, like, again, like before we went to like put it in Target, like Juice Spot in theory was like dead before we reemerged in Target. That was
yeah,
almost like a phoenix from the ashes moment in itself.
right, right.
Going from like milk to Juice Spot and all these things. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I just love the journey.
yeah,
I just don't. It's a weird thing for me because similarly to you, like when you're in the food truck, it might have been we got so beaten down by stuff, but like Purple Banter pays rent.
right.
That's crazy to me.
That's
Like
awesome.
I like deal done. Like everything after that, like granted, would I love to get like a really beat up Ford Mustang for like 6 grand and maybe like start like slowly tweaking that up, get myself a little convertible in California. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like that's like these are little like materialistic things but that's like I'm talking like that's it. Like that's all
right.
I really care about is like at some point being able to like put down a little bit of money for a house and like kind of have like a fun car to maybe like zoom around on that like usually breaks down every like 3-4 weeks. That's as far as like the materialistic stuff goes, that's it for me.
Right.
But then I have to always be attached to a vision that I believe in and go huge. And I
Right.
think that I could be on my deathbed still trying to, do something and have like $2 in my pocket. And that's it. I don't really, that's okay. As long as Elof doesn't like hate me over it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, obviously she met you like at the bottom. Like it wasn't like,
But she met me the week before we did our like Juice Spot launch in 2019.
oh yeah, yeah, I remember that. Oh, that is true.
Wait, wasn't that 2019?
No, that was 2019. Yeah, same year.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
That's so when did
I
it?
mean,
I don't even actually know when it died because the funniest thing about Juice Spot dying is I was in Chase Bank, finally getting like my LLC figured out for Purple Banter on the phone, with the board call that like actually was our last board call. And then you were doing something. You already at least had like 3 restaurants like up and running.
yeah.
And I just
Oh,
love that.
oh, which one are you talking about? Like, oh, okay,
You
I
had like
see.
Nashville Coop, you had Nashville Coop Rochester, I think by that point.
Yeah,
And um yeah, there was like you had like probably 3 or 4 food trucks and like 2 like actual brick and mortar
yeah,
restaurants and like when the thing actually went down. And I love
yeah.
that about who we are in that context. Because this guy, I'm like telling this guy my dreams, and I'm like telling him about Purple Banter. I'm like, hey, I think I finally had my first like $5,000 or $10,000 check coming in. So I'm like, I gotta do this thing.
Yeah, it's a
And
client.
but so I'm on the Zoom call on speakerphone. I'm like, sorry, bro, just hold off. And he's like, I don't care. Seems kind of interesting. And so I had to do a little end regards of maybe a little bit of an F off. I'm just gonna start swearing less this year. I'm not gonna no more F words in my and no I'm not gonna say hate and F words anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to do the best thing I can with that. But because
Yeah.
and so the guy I closed the call, I'm like, so he's like, what's that? And I'm like, oh, that was this tech company that we had like a few $1 million in and it's gone.
Yeah.
Like it's a wrap.
Well, it's funny because there was that one guy that they used as their like ambassador to call us, and he's like, yeah, he's always like liked you guys, and um, and he's like he wants to give you back like 90% of the company, but like if it goes somewhere, he gives the next 10. I'm like, what? It's like, wait, no, you have no leverage here. What are you talking about?
I
And
think they
so
would be baffled of how much I do not think of it.
yeah,
Like I
it's
can tell you, like when I see you, I think of it. I like it's fun to like recall some things, but other than
yeah.
that, I literally like never think of
It's not the product that we think about or like them. It's just like
the
the
funny little
fact
stories of the era.
yeah, the fact that like, we yeah, and the funny thing to me is I mean this is just like a few years, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, there
And
would be a lot of people like in drunken stupors and have failed and like I don't even know. Like there's a lot of different versions of the way that someone could react to that, being like the guy who's sitting at a bar stool being like, this
yeah,
person stole my whole livelihood, right? Like you could have that
yeah.
demeanor.
And here's the funny part. So it's still one of those things where I'm like, it's funny how when you're at the bottom building and when you're at the top, you actually have more aligned in the way that you view the world. And in the people in the middle are just trying to maintain and not lose their position. And so I think what I wish for you and me is that as we continue to build, that, and we get to a certain place where it's like, wow, it's starting to get comfortable to not let off the gas. Like some people are like, I made $1 to $2 million. I really got to protect it. I'm like, that's when you double down, right? That is how somebody who has nothing thinks. And that's how a billionaire thinks.
Right.
It's like getting lost in the middle of the shuffle. But it's funny because, we were doing grilled cheese on campus,
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that's starting to come to go there to like, if the numbers make sense and like they're willing to put enough of a investment into it, then it might be like, oh, you should be thinking about your culinary director the same way you think about Caruso or like like if somebody comes on campus, the food is just as much as like a closing statement as
Yeah,
like
100%. Like you go into the dining hall and you go, wow. There's a dining hall in a school right over here that they have like Subway and Sbarro and it's a high school.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And you're like, whoa, that's nicer than our colleges, like by far. And
exactly.
obviously you could do way more. They should treat the dining hall at St. Thomas the same way the Twins and Vikings treat the dining hall in their spaces. Like, why not? Like
One, yeah,
local flavors and all these types of things. Like it has to be collaborative.
yeah, 1000%. And then now, you have ideas that work. You have students, because I'm like, how much money do you think you guys are losing to people eating off campus every year? Versus like that, all that income should stay on campus and it should be exciting. That helps you recruit students and keep the money with the student. That helps you recruit athletes. That's going to help you recruit faculty members to stay.
Right.
And so, if it works out, I think there's going to be, enough to at least be like, hey, can we like do a story out of this? Can we get something? Because I think what's another thing that I think would be exciting, especially because your reach is going deep roots in within like Southern California. But I do think at some point I would love to see a satellite of Purple Banter in the Twin Cities because I think it'll have its own little catapult.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And
Minneapolis
that's
is such an interesting place because it's now unfortunately well known through George Floyd, but I hope that over time it is really well known through its rebirth, because
Yeah.
that's truly like what's taking place in most of that space. It still has still like, there's a lot of people like yourself that have put in the weight on your shoulders to carry the ball to like what Minneapolis looks like in the next generation. But there's a good group of people that are like overseeing it well. And
Mhm.
such a vibrant city. I love Minneapolis's politics. I love that it's happens to be like wildly radically liberal, but at the same time, everybody's parents voted for Trump. And so I love that
Mhm.
differentiating element of opinion.
It's
Um,
very purple. It's more purple than people realize it. It's like it's
yeah,
if there's space, it's where it is purple. It's funny, like, obviously there's a lot of purple symbols in Minneapolis, but if there's something, if there is a place where you could call purple, it's definitely the Twin Cities.
yeah. No, I definitely want to somehow figure out a way to like partner with someone the right way up there and be able to just like continue to tell stories and have someone like really on the ground in that space. Because
Yeah.
it's a really important spot in the US and even in like the world context of like where culture is moving.
Yeah.
um you see like LA and New York are losing their shine within like being the only people that have like a stake in
Boy.
where culture goes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of happening across the globe as well. You're seeing um ideas that have never, and before it used to be like, oh, let's take um Ethiopian American, or let's take Italian American. And now you're starting to see Filipino Italian. You're starting to see, you know, American, uh, Vietnamese, and Iraqi. Like
Yeah,
it, it's no longer. Um, I think a lot of people are starting to understand, like, you don't need like, which we knew for a while, like you don't need validation to just go, right?
right.
And it's a big part of it, um, and that, I think, for me has been, when I was first starting out, I didn't really have um, not only the platform, but I didn't have the camaraderie to do a lot of things that, like, we wanted to do. And I think about it, I'm like, a big part of it is like, if you and I didn't meet, I don't know how things would have taken out, because
You'd have maybe been more successful.
no, but I think a lot of saying like, hey, like, I wanted to do food truck fair. You're like, I definitely want to do that. Want to do juice bar. Definitely. It would have been, I don't think I would have moved to San Francisco by myself. I just don't see how that would have been feasible.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so I think having like an unshakable level of friendship. And I think one thing a lot of people don't know about us is, like, we didn't agree on everything. Not only from ideas, but like we didn't agree on.
Well, I wanted to move to LA. You wanted to move to San Francisco.
Yeah,
But you ended up figuring out you got to get a relationship sort of with Blue Bottle. And like the
yeah,
founder was like kind of talking to you, like, and so that's why we moved there.
yeah,
And for all the other variety of, I mean, it came to a group decision at the end of the day of like, yeah,
yeah,
tech is San Francisco. Like this is
yeah,
where it's happening. And thank God we did that because it
yeah.
definitely accelerated us.
Yeah, I mean, every little thing, like, it shakes out one way or another. And like, you change one thing left or right, like, maybe you don't meet Elof, right? Maybe
Right. How
you
would
get
I
to do
have?
what we're doing today. So it's like, I mean, the dots are connecting backwards, but I think that's been sort of the theme of our friendship, is like, looking back, we could be like, I don't regret any of it, good, bad,
Yeah.
like, that we've gone through. Um, and I think having that foundation of like unshakable friendship, and saying anything that we do above here is going to be based on, the business does well, great. Doesn't change our friendship. The business sucks, doesn't change our friendship. You
Right.
know, and I think, I do hope for um my siblings, family, future kids, Khaleesi, that they get to experience that level of genuine friendship. That's like,
Hmm.
and that's the thing. It's like, to add on to that, like we didn't agree on everything. Like we had maybe had sometimes opposing, and why would we? Like we came from two different backgrounds. Like you grew up in Rochester, grew up in, Minneapolis and parts of East Africa. So like it wouldn't have made sense to be like every single point we would see exactly eye to eye.
Yeah.
Ironically, though, if like let's say I was stuck in a hole, or if I like ended up in jail and somebody's like, "Who are you gonna call?" I'm like, "I'm calling LJ."
Yeah.
You know,
We'll get you out.
because exactly, because it was one of those things where like,
And I'll have fun doing it.
yeah, and like you're not gonna like I mean, you'll give you shit about it in a fun way, but like there's not gonna be any judgment there, and so like I think having sort of like um a type of relationship that is not bound to time, is not bound to a certain disagreement or agreement, but just saying like, push comes to shove, like this is the person that I know that has my back, even if we don't agree on like some things that we consider fundamental,
Well, we'd be
right?
like yelling at each other over politics, like a pretty good amount, especially like when we lived in San Francisco.
It was so, yeah. I mean, I remember
I
the
wouldn't
first,
be, I would not be married to Eli if it wasn't for our friendship, because
yeah,
you dealt with the most naive version of myself, right? So you dealt with me through those gap years of kind of wake up into the reality. There's all these like different political, cultural, social situations going on, and I am never scared of my opinion, but that doesn't mean I think my opinion's always right.
yeah,
And um we would always just, I mean, our friendship continues to be that, which is like, what's going on
yeah,
today? How do we think about it? All these different things. And I think we've over time understood, we've gotten actually way closer in each other's opinions over
exactly,
time. But
yeah,
I think we definitely started like way more over here, and now
yeah,
we're both like right over here.
yeah.
Uh,
And it's not like because and it's not despite of it or because of it. It's just like, I think we still in the beginning being that much apart, like it was still like very genuine friendship. You know what I
oh
mean? And
yeah, yeah. That wasn't. I mean, nothing was going anywhere. Like just because we disagreed on something.
exactly, exactly. And so I think there's that element of, and I don't know if like the world is still like that. I feel like it's like you see less and less of that as time goes. And but that's honestly what I, appreciate the most about, and it also requires very to little maintenance. You know what I mean? Like, you
Mm,
maybe you have a lot going on in your life. Like, well, I can hang out with you tomorrow, and it wouldn't be like I didn't see you for,
yeah,
you know, it'll, there's no, it's not, it doesn't require that. Some people are just like, oh, dude, like, are you my friend anymore? Like, we haven't talked in like 2 or 3 weeks.
that's the
Like,
worst.
yeah, like you're changing, and it's like, dude, I'm just kind of head down because I gotta get up at, early in the morning. I gotta work 12-hour days, and some days maybe I'll get a little break and I'll get to work from home. But like for the most part, it's just like putting out fires, and that's just like what I'm doing. And it's like I hope you're doing something in life that is like taking up your energy and time to like do that kind of stuff too.
Hmm.
And if you're not doing that, it's like we kind of don't really have a lot in common anyway. So like
Yeah,
there's the friendship.
I always loved it. Like in the heat of battle, when like it'd be like a crazy day, there'd be a lot of messes, there'd be little failures and heated moments, because heated
Yeah.
moments weren't even like directed necessarily like towards each other, because that
Yeah.
wasn't our
Try to,
friendship, wasn't like we rarely butted heads, but when we
yeah.
did, like it was real. And
Yeah.
but we'd always be going through messes all the time, and you would see individuals around us that maybe didn't understand like the dynamics of a relationship be like, okay, so now it's like 7 p.m. on like a Friday. Like, where, like, is this going to get weird? Does everyone go to separate bedrooms? And then we would all be like, well, so where are we going next? Like, where are we going for
Exactly.
dinner? And
Yeah.
and I remember a few times they'd be like, wait, so are we not going to address this? And it's like, no, we already, we addressed the whole thing. You saw
Yeah.
we addressed it. There's like there's an interesting way of going from like, it could have a very difficult Friday night of like staying up late and fighting over shit. And then on Saturday morning, it's like, well, where are we getting breakfast, dude?
Yeah. And a big part of that is just like, I think everyone was just honest about how they felt. And like, I never had this feeling of thinking like, oh, what is LJ thinking right now or thinking about me or whatever. It was like, there was no like malicious, um,
Right.
to it. It was always like, dude, that's a horrible fucking idea, and
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
and like, I, but that had nothing to do with and so I think being able to, I think not even say separate the two, but just to know like that was just a part of it. It's like we could, but I wasn't like going to go and talk to, another person, and be like, dude, this LJ guy. It was never that. It's like, if I have something to say to you, I'm saying it to you and vice versa. We didn't like,
That's an
it was
interesting
never,
conversation to have. Like, as you as like CEO of our brand, and then myself and Eric as being like your two partners in crime that would be looked at as understoodly as your friends, but also kind of like the next in line characters or whatever you want to call it with on the hierarchy of those things. It's
yeah,
weird how every once in a while, and I think we need to speak about this as founders, that people try to like chip you off. There was so many times that people would try to
yeah,
grab Kamal and be like, hey, I'm gonna kind of like somehow like control him in a way, or somehow like get him to speak poorly about the rest of the group, or I want you to speak poorly about him, so like we go over here and separate him and isolate him. Those are weird dynamics. I think it comes a little bit more when you're young entrepreneurs, when you got like only everyone in the room's like under 25. But those
right,
are very odd dynamics that like that's where a friendship allows you to not even have to like deal with the weird interactions like that. But that used to happen like
yeah.
all the time. The first five
Well,
years of JuicePot, that happened all the time.
yeah, and you see it when, I mean, I think one of the things that there was a lot of things that led up to 2019, when all things came crashing for our side first. Um, but you know, to kind of speak on it on record, it's like we just said no to wiring them $500,000. It's like, well, LJ, why don't you do it? Eric, why don't you do it? And it's like, come on, it's like you guys can do whatever you want. You can fire us if you want to, but like we're not sending you $500,000
Yeah, I mean,
for
they were
crack
to
gas machine.
me, and only personally, because I only want this to land on me, but they were very clearly embezzling money. And in my eyes, from what I understand, that I felt like I was seeing, and there's a very, very, very fine line of conspiracy theory in that.
Yeah,
But um, it is wild to think that it literally was one no was the reason that everything fell apart. But that, could you imagine what that one yes could have been? That one yes could have been a disaster.
right.
But there was a time where like literally they called us and they said, if you don't send $500,000, you will be fired. And we knew very clearly that $500,000 was going from their bank account to our bank account to back to an
There,
entity of their
yeah,
bank account.
yeah,
And we're like, that seems that's not even gray anymore. That's getting to be
right.
pretty black and white of what's happening here.
Yeah, the
Um,
conflict of interest is just
yeah, and we
it,
also, it would have gotten in the way of the success of even our own product. Like we'd have been like somehow losing $500 in this wash that we'd have never even been attached to, but
yeah,
also attached to legally. And that's what's going to happen when you are. I always think I don't really believe that the individual that was sending us the money was actually a billionaire. I think he was a billionaire in like rupees or whatever. But
right.
like, it's weird when a billionaire in theory steals something from you to think that like there's something that valuable. The
Yeah,
only thing I'm most bothered by is they didn't do anything with it.
yeah,
At least if
yeah,
you're going to steal my car, drive it. Take
yeah.
it on a police chase. Do something fun.
Let me see
Don't
you on
just
Cops
crash
tonight.
it before you get to the highway.
Right. That's and the funny thing is, like, and for me, there's a little part of me that's like
It's never dead.
2.0,
Yeah.
2.0 might come back, and if it does, it'll be so funny and so fun. And like it'll be done in a way where it's like, I don't need this to work. And there's something about when you don't need something to work and you're just doing it, it kind of works, you
Yeah, it's
know?
more fun because there was
Yeah.
different eras where like we were just the looser that you are. You see this in athletes all the time where like, Joe Montana's looking in the back of the end zone. He's like, is that John Candy right before the final drive that he wins the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
If you prepared the right way, when you're in the battle of it, you have to stay loose. And specifically, we forget about that in business, is like just those creativity elements, taking a chance on weird colors like pink when everybody says it can't be pink, and then flipping it back to black just because it's the color of the year. Like
Right.
all of those things are what make businesses exciting for communities, which make it super fun. And in the boardroom, they come off super risky, but that's why people like Elon Musk are just absolutely like reckless and brilliant at the same time. Because he's a
Yeah.
version of that we've never even seen before. And you have to appreciate at least the product, even though the Tesla truck comes out and apparently like it's designed all shitty and all these types of
Yeah.
things. But I'm like, he just reminds me of like JuiceBot with like $1 billion.
Yeah. Well, you got it. Yeah. But just with like more billions, but it's the same kind
Yeah,
of thinking.
just 100 billion.
Yeah. Just like, but just do it. And
Yeah,
then if it fails, yeah, it's like obviously no one wants a recall, but I think having that spirit and, um, no, I love it. And I'm so excited for your birthday. I'm excited that God has given you another year to just grow and celebrate. And seeing you as a dad is, every phase that I've seen you in, um, it just becomes more and more special. And like now seeing you in this phase of you've always preached love. You've always been somebody who's very thoughtful and you've done that even like when we were young, when you didn't have to, from doing vision to um all the work that you've done that you don't even talk about. um Seeing you in this phase is like my favorite phase for you.
sure.
And I think it's just you're working for yourself. um you married the love of your life.
She's dope. I definitely like out punted and got kick my coverage with that.
And then we got a baby. It's like what, you really got to wake up, even if you got like a lot of things stressful or things in your way. I think at least that first 60 seconds to be like, I got it worked out for me,
Yeah,
you know.
I definitely feel like I'm in a period right now, and I appreciate everything you're saying. And I do agree that like I'm in this weird, very fun window of still building from the ground up. Still haven't in theory made it. Still have to talk about rent every once in a while. But it's the best blessed period. And then knowing that like now my only really duty is to just make sure like my baby and my wife are like living a comfortable, safe, and sometimes exciting life. It's just so much. It's really wild when you find the individual that you truly love and that like you want to you wake up slow with on Sunday mornings and you want to stay up late with on Friday nights and you want to work together throughout the week to be able to create something of value and you want to fight about news articles in the afternoon. That then when you create like a child together and now that like partnership becomes a family, it's the coolest thing. And so
That's
all of the world that tells us, well, the world's going to be worse with more kids and the world's not ready for more kids. It's not. Stop it, dude. The
yeah,
world needs more families. Don't let this fear of tomorrow take away the most blessed future you could possibly have. It's
the pre-
so worth it, dude. It's the
yeah.
best.
And I think seeing you is inspiring. I think you being the first in the line, I
Well,
mean,
James got out and ahead of us
that's
way
true.
early, but
That's true. He had a jump, but he had a jump and he sat in the heat for a few months and was like, I think I'm just going to get married. that was, that's the story for another time. But
yeah.
yeah, no, that's really exciting. So yeah, man, I think, you're birthday coming up. I am going to try to see if we can do something, whether that's like sending you a little birthday gift, or seeing if I can convince Allie to just do a little 48-hour trip with me down there.
June
to come
1st, we're
see
having our party at Club CC.
Club CC, like downtown.
No. Club C. I'm in Club CC.
Oh, Club CC. It's been a few months.
Yeah, we got a disco ball in here now.
I think you two do a good job of decorating.
It's definitely a verge of both of us. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I appreciate you, bro. I love you, and get on with your day. You got way more better things to do than this. So, but I appreciate you, and just onward and upward.
Yeah. Much love, LJ. Happy birthday. Love you, bro.
Love you. See ya.
I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war.